The Business Owners Podcast is brought to you by Business, Business, Business and Eniver Group with your hosts, Linda Reid Eniver and Clive Eniver. In each episode, we talk to other business owners about their experiences, challenges and successes. We'll also share tips and advice on how to grow your business and achieve your goals. If you're a business owner or you're thinking about starting a business, then the Business Owners Podcast is for you.
Welcome to the Business Owners Podcast. My name is Clive Eniver, and along with Linda Reid Eniver, I'm your host. I am a business strategist, and I help people discover clarity to more easily engage with more of their ideal client more often. Today I'm having a conversation with Damon and Rasheed about automating and processes. Hello, Damon, and welcome.
Hi, Clive. Thanks for having me. Excited about this.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. I've spent far too many years trying to encourage people to automate and to put processes in place. And I'm glad to have somebody who can actually teach me how to do it.
Well, let's see how we go.
Now, first off, let's find out a little bit about where you've come from. Give us the short version of how Damon has come to be in business and so focused on automating and processes.
Well, the short version is I wanted to be an AFL footballer. And then when that wasn't going to come to fruition, I had to find something else to do. So I studied economics at university and I loved stats and I loved data science. It wasn't like developed at that stage like it is now, but that was my passion. And then out of university, I ended up working for the regulator, the ACCC, which was unbelievably fascinating. I worked in mergers and acquisitions. So I got to see different industries and every 30 days, I'm doing a deep dive into a new industry, finding out about it, finding out about what people are doing at board level. So I couldn't imagine a better learning curve in how to attack business.
Sounds like a great journey.
Absolutely. And then, I got to the stage where when I was at the ACCC, I was running a few businesses on the side, web-based startups, and they started to earn more money than I was making through my day job. So it became quite an easy transition for me to take the leap and actually start my own business because I was already doing that and there wasn't a lot of risk leaving a secure government job.
So technology's been a part of you right from the beginning.
Yep, definitely. So in the early days, it was using stats, regressions and things like that to try to predict sports outcomes. So trying to beat the market betting on AFL and American sports and other Aussie sports. And I sort of cut my teeth on the value of data and also automating processes as well to make sure that we weren't spending forever coming up with these predictions. But that was a fun time in my life.
So I'm gathering from that the important thing about data is, of course, I've been saying this for years, but confirmation is always excellent. Data is really just a tool, Damon.
Data is a tool, but it is important to make sure that you're collecting the right data. But it's just a tool. You're absolutely right. The real value add is how you analyze that data and then what you do from those reports that you produce or the models that you build. Yeah, data is just a pathway to improving productivity and automation.
Monitoring, analyzing, interpreting.
Yep. And I think what's happened in the last 5 or 10 years through advances in technology is that we've been able to supercharge that. So that's what you've said has always been a part of business. But now with modern technology, it's much more accessible to supercharge those three aspects.
That's excellent. And I'm going to dive more into that shortly, but let's just deal with the fundamentals of life before we get stuck into the serious stuff.
Okay.
Is it coffee, tea, or something else?
Oh, I'm something else. I'm a hot chocolate person. I've never been into coffee and tea, and I always feel guilty ordering a hot chocolate when everyone else is having a coffee. I feel like a little kid. I remember when I was at the ACCC, we had this really high-powered meeting and we took our graduate and she ordered a milkshake and slurped on that the whole time. And it was like, oh my gosh, that was her first day. I'll never forget it. She's still there today though, so that's 20 years ago.
So it's okay to be different.
It's okay to be different. So hot chocolate for me.
Very good. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
I'm a night owl. Yeah, struggling in the morning.
So I guess as an AFL footballer, the night games, which probably came later than your time, would have been good.
I never quite got there, but I think I'd prefer I had to give up cricket, actually. I was a good cricketer, but I had to give it up because you had to get up early. It was too much.
Fair enough. What book are you currently reading and why can't you put it down?
Do you know what? I'm not a book person. I'm more of a podcast person. So I enjoy podcasts like this one, a lot of YouTube stuff. I think the last book that I read was Steve Waugh's Ash's Diary about 25 years ago. Yeah, not a book reader, but love consuming content in other ways.
Very good. And what is one word to describe your journey so far?
Variable.
That's a good way of looking at a business journey.
I think it summarizes business pretty well. I've always thought that if you can have one or two successes out of every 5 attempts, I think that's a pretty good strike rate. You're doing something right if those businesses are successful.
That would be a 20 to 40% success rate. And ABS figures tell us that 73% or thereabouts, I think it is, of businesses fail within the first 3 years in Australia.
Yeah, it's a sobering thought, isn't it? Why would you ever get into business if 73% fail? I guess if the 20 odd percent that succeed are smash hits, then it's probably worth the risk.
Yes, those figures are probably about chance, actually.
Yeah.
Although you would know more about that than I. I think chance is somewhere between 25 and 30%.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of luck as well. People you meet along the way. I've been involved in businesses where even changes in regulation have either torpedoed a business or made it succeed, changes in technology. Well, there's a lot of people these days that have put a lot of work into building out technology that has been replaced by ChatGPT 3 or 4 or something like that. And so there is a lot of luck that's involved.
Yes, and they tell us that we make our own luck. So is it important that we look to the future and plan about how we might address things?
I think it is, but I think sometimes startups can get too involved in looking to the future and endless business planning and endless financial forecasts and endless competitor analysis. I've always thought that if you have a really good idea and you wake up the next day and you still think it's a good idea and a month later you can't get it out of your head, then you should probably start investigating it. And I think sometimes people just get paralyzed by what competitors are doing and what your unique value proposition is. Sometimes it's okay to be a me too or just do something a little bit better. So yeah, I think you definitely have to have an eye to the future, but don't let it paralyze your endeavors.
No, a very important point, Damon. I agree entirely. But let's hear a little more about your journey, how it started and where it went. And I'm particularly interested in, for the benefit of the listeners, Damon and I heard a chat earlier, and I know a couple of things that I actually want to draw out of him. So tell us a little bit about how your journey got underway and the twists and turns along the way.
Yeah, so I mentioned I was passionate about data. So I managed to surround myself with some really leading machine learning experts in Australia. Dr. Eugene Jubasarski's one and of another, two of my business partners today. Incredibly smart and at the cutting edge of machine learning. This is before ChatGPT and other modern day machine learning tools. So I really got a deep understanding around how machine learning could benefit businesses. And I was also had a number of my businesses myself. So I was thinking to myself, how can I embed this sort of emerging technology in my businesses to make them more efficient? We also had a consultancy business that provided services to third parties. We worked a lot in road safety with governments. We worked with universities. We worked with hospitals. So for the last 10 or 15 years, I've been using machine learning AI solutions to try to improve businesses' efficiencies and then working with a number of businesses that had data sets and didn't actually know what to do with them. So our biggest challenge in applying these new technologies is to actually understand what's possible. That's the issue that a lot of small businesses face, that they don't know that their data set could potentially be gold. They just need to analyze it a little bit better, draw some insights, and then act on those insights. So there's a lot of gold sitting within small, medium businesses that just needs to be unlocked. And often people just don't know where to start. So the business that I set up, that was one of the things that we specialized in, was consulting around, you have this data, here are some possible options that you can do to improve your efficiency, automate processes, drive additional revenues, reduce costs.
Yeah, I think you're right. A lot of us get caught up in our day-to-day and don't necessarily know that we're sitting on a pot of gold.
That's perfectly described. And I think everyone's guilty of that. If you're a small business owner or a medium business, people say that you sometimes have to take a helicopter view, but it's really hard to do because you get wrapped up in staffing matters, you get wrapped up in customer inquiries, you try to do everything, but the data that you're creating along the way could be incredibly valuable. And if it's not valuable, there are sometimes very simple things that you can do to improve your data capture to make your data more valuable in the future.
Yes, we can always count the things that don't count, and that's not going to help.
Yeah, exactly. I actually spent some time building a business on data valuation called Aurum Data, because data is not actually, by accounting standards, you can't even put it on a balance sheet today. So the value of data in exact science, it's hard to value. But what I've seen are the outputs from employing data science techniques to this data to improve business productivity.
That's excellent. And along this journey that you took, you mentioned to me earlier that there was something about the data that the road traffic people have that you were able to show them some additional uses for.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've worked extensively in road safety with a group called IRAP. I guess their mission is to reduce fatalities and major injuries worldwide. And we've worked extensively with the TAC here in Victoria, in Australia. The TAC have the most incredible data set. It's the envy of the rest of the world. So they've been able to use that data set to try to improve road safety. But moreover, they even have a function within their business where they try to help globally. So with partners like IRAP, a lot of the insights that are being drawn out from our modeling are now being adopted in countries in South America, in Europe, in Asia, these emerging countries that have, horrible road safety problems. Big data insights are coming up with policies and countermeasures to try to improve road safety. So, it's a real practical application to a big data analysis problem.
And with all of this data that you can help people with, what you do, of course, is show them how to improve their processes. What does improved processes and automation do for a business?
It depends on the business, but there's a simple way to describe it is that there's a lot of processes that businesses do that are replicated and don't actually involve that much thinking. They're just manual tasks that you do over and over again. If you've got those sort of tasks in your business, there's a very high likelihood that they could be automated or at least partly automated, and that will free you up to do more of the things that actually help your business. So business development or staff management or planning. If you're doing something on a daily basis that's very repetitive or even a weekly basis that's time consuming, that's when you should start to think, okay, maybe I can automate that process and free up those hours, because there's a lot of hours in the day that could be put to more productive uses. And I don't think this AI technology is going to take jobs away or anything like that. I think it's just going to make people focus on more important things that can generate additional jobs, more opportunities.
I think, Damon, and just my personal view, that with all the technology that we've ever seen, when it first arrived, it was always going to take away jobs. And for a couple of more recent ones, we've only got to think of radio and TV. And of course, what they've done is open up opportunities for more people to become involved in more things to help more people, isn't it?
My wife's actually the chair of the Productivity Commission, and she shows a slide from, I think it's the 1930s or 40s, a newspaper clipping where it says machines are coming to get our jobs. So this concept's been around for a long time, but it's never really come to fruition. I think the nature of jobs will change with these emerging technologies, but I'm not convinced that there'll be less jobs. I think there'll be more opportunities. Maybe the nature of them will change. Australia's moving to more of a service economy as it is, but within businesses, I think there'll be less repetitive stuff and more focus on things that actually drive that value.
It seems to be the human condition that we seek better ways of doing things.
Absolutely. And now with advances in technology, those advances are increasing exponentially, where it's accessible to everyone now, whereas previously it was accessible to people that had large budgets to have development teams to build automations. Now it's accessible to anyone.
Damon, that might be enough about business for the moment. And in particular, how do you balance your personal life and your business? And is there a particular challenge you might have faced along the way that how you overcome it might help some of our listeners to deal with the challenges they face?
When I was younger, I was poor with work-life balance. I was way too many hours working, not enough hours doing things that actually help your mental health, which has emerged as an issue now in the last decade or so. People have become aware of work-life balance being important. So I think as you get older, I think you naturally gravitate to more of a work-life balance. Your second question was around an issue, was it, that I've had to overcome?
A particular challenge you might have faced.
I think One of the biggest challenges is that everyone wants a piece of your time. It's true for small businesses, medium businesses, and your time is so valuable. I think you've just got to be strong at saying no and just taking opportunities that will actually benefit you or be mutually beneficial. I think you've just got to be ruthless with that. Otherwise, there's only so much time in a day and you end up pleasing other people and not actually focusing on things that will help you.
Is there something special that you can see in the future of your profession that you would like to shape?
Yes. So look, my current project is with a publicly listed company called Opal. OPL's the code, and it involves medical research, clinical trials specifically. I think that technologies that we're developing to help improve how clinical trials are designed will reshape the way that medical research is done. There's so much wastage in medical research at the moment because things have been done the same way for 40 or 50 years. But with the advent of big data and new technologies, we can change that narrative so that big data, AI, machine learning can bring more successful drugs to market, lower the costs of healthcare, help find solutions for people with rare conditions. All this sort of stuff that wasn't possible 5 or 10 years ago is now possible. So I think that the healthcare sector in general is a really low-hanging fruit for machine learning, AI, process automation, and our particular niche in terms of designing clinical trials for pharmaceutical companies and biotechs using AI could really change the landscape for medical research.
An area that's close to everybody's heart, of course, medical research. Now, medical research is notoriously expensive, but also we were talking earlier about percentage of risk and percentage of likelihood of success and what have you.
Yeah.
How do those numbers apply and to what cost is involved in medical research?
This is the fascinating thing, right? Let's say if a company's doing a phase 2 trial. So phase 2 is when you're first trying to prove whether a drug works, for example. It costs around $20 to $30 million US just to run that phase of a trial. And most companies will do that research without a really good idea on what their probability of success is. It absolutely baffles me that, even big pharma can spend this sort of money without having some sort of a machine learning model, AI model that could analyze their success rate and actually improve it. It floors me that sort of money can be spent on something that is so risky. And sometimes these phase 2 trials might have less than a 20% chance of success. Of course, the payoff is great if you get it. But I think machine learning AI technology can actually provide some sort of a cost benefit analysis now. You can say, okay, we're going to spend $20 million and we've got a 55% chance of this succeeding going to the next phase. Previously, that sort of work couldn't be done. You can imagine even with the rare conditions where you're spending $25, $30 million on a particular condition where even if it's successful, there's such a small population that would use the drug. Now, if you can shift that success rate and say, okay, it's a 70% chance now, it might enable more investment into rarer conditions as well. Yeah, so that risk return is AI frames that really well where we can allow pharmaceutical companies to do a cost benefit analysis.
That's excellent. Of course, mind-boggling that we can spend 100 million on the off chance that we might get 20 million of that work.
It's mind-blowing, yeah. And Australia is at the forefront of clinical trial research, but it's so risky. There's a publicly listed company in Australia that announced a failure about 2 months ago. And basically, off the back of one result, whether your trial works or not, you either stay in business or don't. It's that cutthroat. Yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted.
No, so there's a tremendous opportunity for you and your data there.
There is. So, yeah, this company Opal that I'm involved with, we've only had the product in market for probably 7 or 8 months, but we're starting to get some really strong traction, both within Australia, but more importantly overseas, because Australia's a bit of a fishbowl. So, yeah, it's exciting because we're changing the way clinical trials are designed and they've been done the same way for 30, 40, 50 years. So it's a big change in the way that the industry works.
No, it sounds very exciting to me and a great opportunity for a whole bunch of people to get involved.
Absolutely.
So all you people out there listening, an eye for data or an ear for data, look Damon up.
Yeah, the code's OPL on the Australian Stock Exchange. We're a micro cap at the moment. As we get more customers and more traction, we're hoping that will change.
Oh, excellent. And we will give you Damon's contact details shortly. But there's more talk to be had. There's more to be got from Damon, I'm sure. Damon, what advice would you give to someone else starting out in this domain, given your experience and what might help them?
I think there's so many free resources out there now that you could immerse yourself in to understand Like what took me 5 or 10 years to learn could be learned in months now. And there's so much stuff on YouTube. Most of my coders these days will code everything using a language model. So ChatGPT, there's huge risks associated with that, is that you can get really lazy and not check the code that's provided and just assume that it's right when it's making a critical error. So I would say most people that are starting out in data science are going to be using one of these language tools to code. Just understand the risks involved, because they can really save you a lot of time, but something in their code might be using data that it shouldn't and coming up with a spurious result, and you would never know unless you thoroughly check that code. And that's not a made up an example. That's an example from 2 days ago when one of my coders produced this model that was having incredibly accurate. And I'm like, there must be a bug here because nothing's that accurate. It's a model. So sure enough, we did a deep dive into the code that was produced, and ChatGPT had used a variable that was in the future and it wouldn't have been known at the time of building the model. So if you're going to use one of these language models, which you should, be well aware of the risks associated, because that's the number one issue that I find that data scientists have and machine learning experts have, is that they are sometimes a bit careless and don't triple check things.
So deep analysis of what you're starting from is really important.
Yeah, I think you need to have good fundamentals. You need to know what you're doing, what outcome you're trying to get to, and some sort of an idea on what sort of machine learning applications you want to use, and then use a language model to build everything, and then triple check it.
Sounds like good advice. I think triple checking everything is good value.
Yeah, and if you're not using a language model to code at the moment and you're a data person, products like Cursor that's out there, even using OpenAI ChatGPT, it's phenomenal what can be done.
Yes, amazing that these tools are available to us in some cases for free.
Yep, I wrote 150 lines of code this morning in about 2 minutes and checked it in about 10 minutes, and it was perfect. That saves a day's work. There's an example of semi-process automation there. It's mind-boggling.
And of course, no doubt it created an opportunity for more people to do more stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as I said before, the nature of jobs might change, but I think there'll be more jobs.
It's exciting. Who'd have thought that data analysis could be exciting?
I think that the use cases that I'm involved in are really exciting, whether it's been sports betting or road safety or medical trials or predicting default rates for loans. The applications are actually really interesting. The data part itself can be really interesting as well. Finding a new variable that influences a game of AFL football, for example, that no one else knows about. You hear all the people on the radio, these experts talking about how the game should be played, but as a data person, I know that these 4 variables are the most important and no one ever talks about them. Yes. So yeah, you get all these insights. I developed a golf program called golfswings.ai that uses AI to help optimize your golf swing. So whenever I watch golf now and I hear golf instructors talking about this person should be in this position, I'm like, no, the data's showing something different. You just don't know. It enables you to look at the world in a totally data-driven way and a unique way.
It sounds like a heck of a lot of fun, especially with the sports. Can you see this finding its way into identifying what parts of our education we keep and which parts we might change?
Oh, don't get me started on the education system. I know a little bit about this through just some projects we had, but yeah, things like, as I understand it, primary school and high school teachers, particularly primary school teachers, they have to come up with their own curriculum, right? There's no sort of set curriculum that they can just use and, okay, this has been working. We're just terrible at keeping records. If we could streamline record keeping and saying, okay, this stuff was taught, the students really engaged with it, and we had some sort of central database and a model-based approach, we could say, okay, we know that the teaching initiatives have been successful, they work, kids get engaged, they do better in their NAPLAN or whatever the unbiased metric of teaching them is. Let's do more of it. But our teaching is so fragmented at the moment that we seem to reinvent the wheel over and over again. I know that's true for primary school, high school, university. It's a data collection and problem first and foremost. And if we ever get these data sets, we can certainly streamline learning.
There you go. And that, of course, is a story for another day. There's a whole range of conversations we can have there, David.
Yeah, don't get me started on education.
Most importantly, there's a simple thing that people can do to benefit their business. It's collect the right data, monitor the data, analyze the message it's telling you, interpret it correctly, make a decision.
And make a decision. Yep. Understand that it's a lot easier to do that today than it was last year, 5 years ago. It's very accessible now and not overly expensive compared to what it was 5 or 10 years ago.
Yes. And before I let you go, Damon, many of our listeners will be totally gobsmacked by the benefits available through this. How can our people get in contact with you?
I'm on LinkedIn, so Damon Rasheed. I think I'm the only Damon Rasheed in the world, so you're not going to get confused with someone else. Yeah, just message me through LinkedIn. And, if you've got an interest in any of the products that I'm involved in, or if you've got a general question about helping streamline your business, then message me through LinkedIn. I'm pretty good at replying.
There you go. And of course, if they want to find a little bit more information before they do that, they can find you at, what's your website?
Opyl.ai, opyl.ai is the website for the medical stuff. And then my other website is advantage-data.io. That's my data consultancy business. So you can look up and see some of the projects we've been involved in. And some of the applications for data science are on that website that might give you an idea what you could do with your business.
There you go. Damon, I've absolutely enjoyed our conversation. Thank you for being here.
No worries, Clive. Thanks for having me. Enjoyed it as well.
Thanks for listening to the Business Owners Podcast. We encourage you to connect with us on social media and join our community of business owners at businessbusinessbusiness.com.au.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip. When it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Arr, fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.